This video was brought to you by the lovely members of my Patreon. You know, you're not necessarily a bad person if you don't want to play their game. You know what I mean? If you don't want to be open, I think that's totally fine. But I just can't help but think about how many people out there are probably so stuck in the trauma of yesterday that they're not open to the love of today. Does that make any sense? Hey guys, it's Kat and it's time for another episode of True Tea. I wanted to thank you guys so much for joining me here for yet another episode of True Tea. We do these videos every single Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I greatly appreciate those of you guys who come here every single week ready for a fresh brew of True Tea. Anyway, how are you guys? What have you guys been doing? What have you guys been up to? I've been playing a lot of video games over on the Twitch. We've played now Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4. Have we played 4? No, I think we've only played 2 and 3 actually. But I am wanting to play through all of the Resident Evils, so if you're interested in seeing something like that, go over and join me on the Twitch. My Twitch is katblaque, all one word. I should actually start putting that in the description box of my videos, so go check my description box. I'm sure you can find the link there by now if I do my due diligence. But yeah, it's just really chill. I'm not taking it too seriously. I'm just logging on, playing some games and having some fun conversations, and I kind of suck at playing these games, so it's been really fun to have you guys there with me as I play them to help me, you know, get through them. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, so go and join us over on the Twitch. Anyway, we're gonna be having a conversation in this video about whether or not trans people are harder to love. But before we start that conversation, I would highly suggest you go to your kitchen and grab yourself something to drink. Personally, I am drinking some watermelon drink, I guess, juice drink. I don't know what this is, out of my True Tea mug. I haven't used this mug in a really, really long time, and I thought that I would give it some love. So yeah, I put one of my favorite beverages in my favorite mug. So anyway, let's take a sip of this and let's get right into this conversation. So, at the time of me filming this video, it is February 12th, which means that it is 2 days away from Valentine's Day. And you know me, sometimes I feel like the universe is trying to get me to talk about something. And boy, I mean, there's just been so many things about love that have been happening in my life recently. And the common theme has drawn me to have this conversation with you guys because I wanted to talk about whether or not trans people are harder to love. So let's talk about it. So first of all, I love the fact that a lot of you guys comment on my YouTube channel because you guys really give me a lot of things to think about. And sometimes you guys leave these comments that like really cause me to like stop and think. And I got a comment like this that really, really made me do that. Forever ago, I uploaded a video talking about the many reasons why men are attracted to trans women. And somebody commented on that video, and something that he said really, really stuck with me. He said that he dates both cis and trans women, but he finds that when you tell a trans woman that you love her, she's less likely to believe that you actually mean it. And the reason why this stuck with me is because I've recognized how true that is for me. I guess just to, you know, I think we've talked a lot about the relationships I've had in my past, but you know, to be completely transparent with you guys, I've had a lot of very abusive relationships. I've had a lot of really shitty, transactional, deeply painful relationships. Men have definitely hurt me and scarred me in ways that have created certain reactions within me that occasionally put me in complex positions where I'm not always seeing somebody's emotions for what they are. I'm so used to men lying to me, men telling me one thing because they think that I want to hear it, that it's very, 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 very hard for me to believe a man when he says something. And I'm so used to men sort of, you know, blowing smoke up my ass and telling me that I'm amazing and beautiful and all these other things, and then treating me like shit, that I've sort of developed a habit of never fully taking what a man says seriously, or believing that they are just so, because this is often how it goes, fascinated, enthralled, you know, seduced or whatever by me, that they say things they don't mean. And so something I've recognized recently is that I have a very, very hard time taking a man's words at face value. And sometimes that is not helpful to me. Sometimes that is not helpful to me. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that because something recent has happened in my life that made me really think about this. One of my partners said that he loved me. And it felt really good. But of course, those feelings that I just described came back up. So if you guys have been following me for a while, you probably remember the video that I did forever ago about the guy that I met at a poly meetup who I struggled to explain that I was trans to. Now, to really just quickly recap that whole story, this was a man that I met a year ago, and ever since I've been single in quotations, from my last monogamous relationship, I have struggled to have that conversation about me being trans. So for several reasons, we've talked about this before, but there was a time in my life where I wanted to be stealth. And when that is the foundation of your transness, it is kind of, strange for you to talk about being trans in like an organic way. And for me, I always want to find like an organic way to talk about it. I never want it to be the primary thing I discuss or the first thing that I introduce, because that would feel very unnatural to me. But I do believe that it is a conversation to have with a person that I plan on being intimate with. And when it came to this guy, I wasn't exactly sure if he was attracted to me. I was dealing with an issue in my apartment. All of my outlets in this apartment were broken when I first moved in, and it was a headache and a half to get them over here to fix my outlets. And this guy, he is a handy dude. He's an engineer, and he, knows how to build and fix things. And he offered to come over and help me. Now, I did not assume that his offer to help me fix my stuff was him expressing attraction or interest in me. But I was very, very, very attracted to him. But I'm very used to being really attracted to men and knowing that it's not going anywhere. So I didn't necessarily digest that as, him trying to get in and connect with me in that way. And so long story short, he came over, he fixed my outlets. It was really funny. I was like, I was just moving to this apartment, had boxes everywhere. And I was making some bacon on the stove, and he came over like right when the bacon, I didn't know how to make bacon. And there was like smoke throughout the apartment, and I had to let him in. It was a whole thing. And he came in and laughed at me and then showed me how to fix the outlets. And after I fixed the outlets, he asked me if I was interested in going on a date with him. And I was really taken off guard because I wasn't expecting it. And also I was really, really attracted to him. And I said yes. But in the back of my mind knew that I would have to eventually talk to him about me being transgender. But that conversation is still a really odd one for me to have. And so I wasn't really sure how I was gonna do it, but I knew that I had to do it, right? Long story short, we went on a date. It was really, really amazing. We really connected. And then we went on another date. And I told myself that this was the date where I was gonna tell him. And we, on our second date, got really close and very intimate. And, it got to a point where I was like, I should not do this. And I was looking for a way to not do this. And that's when I told him that I was trans, fully expecting for him to probably be disgusted with me and upset and uncomfortable and feeling betrayed, because those are some experiences that I've had with men in the past where I've had that conversation, right? And so I'd gone on this date with him, and honestly, he really was to me the most like idyllic man ever. He's this tall guy who rides motorcycles, who works for a really, really nice company. He's an engineer. He's really, really smart. He's very, very hardworking. Honestly, in every single way, he's like the opposite of my ex in a lot of ways. And I just was really attracted to him, but it was almost like too good to be true, because he's almost like, he I'm never gonna show you what he looks like, but he's almost like if you were to like build the perfect man in a test tube. He's kind of like that almost. And he's kind of awkward in that way too. Like he seems like almost too good to be true. And I was like in my little fucking fantasy world and I was like, I'm gonna tell this guy so I'm trans, so he'll leave me alone. And so I told him, and he had already known because I had made some Facebook post about my YouTube channel and he looked me up on YouTube and he found out through there, and it was something that he'd already known going into the date. And I had such a hard time processing that because I was so used to men finding out that I was trans and using that as a reason not to pursue me, you know? And so I caught myself in that moment recognizing that what I was doing was self-sabotage in like a very strange way. But my way of self-sabotaging was using something that I can't change about myself, right? And how sad and messed up is that, that I would consider my transness to be what would sabotage the potential of this relationship, you know? And that would be something that I would actually I would use to kind of get myself out of it. And so I was stuck in this situation where here's this really handsome guy who does not care, who genuinely does not care. And the rest is history, right? So we've been together for the past year. We just hit, he's so cute. He was like, he remembered the time where he came over, the date where he came over and like, helped me out to fix my my outlets, and he bought me a little wok. Oh, I'll go and grab it for you guys. And he got me this little wok. He thought it would be a lot larger than it actually was, but yeah, I'm still working on the seasoning on there. But he likes to cook. He's just like the perfect guy, and it's still sort of odd to me, and I still like don't believe it, right? But he recently said that he loved me, and no one had really said. I mean. Here's the thing, I have had men say that they loved me since my ex, I have, but they didn't mean it. You know what I mean? They didn't mean it, and I think that they thought that that's what I wanted to hear, so they said it. But I could tell when he said it that he meant it. And what I had recognized when he said that was that I felt like I wanted to love him too, but that I had been guarded too much to open myself up to feeling that way fully. And it was this really interesting moment because I recognized that I was doing that. I recognized that like, even though we've been seeing each other for a year and things have been going really, really well, that I had been really, really guarded in, you know, letting him be fully intimate with me. And for me, that was like a really huge change of, you know, perspective in the relationship, because I realized that I wanted to be intimate with him. And when I say intimate, I mean, for me, intimacy is that like ugliness that you're uncomfortable showing with other people, you know? It's that sort of rawness that you don't have with just everyone. I think everybody has a face they put on, right? And I've been very good at putting on a face for survival. And I think what I really wanted to show him was a deeper, more intimate side of me. And since he started saying that to me, we've been really connecting and having some very ugly conversations. And it's been almost startling to me how little he's recoiled from these conversations. Because I guess I had assumed that those things would make him recoil. Because of course, when he said that he loved me, I was like, oh, you don't know me enough. You don't know me. You know what I mean? And like, wow, like I've recognized all of this stuff about myself. And I think what I wanted to talk about in this video was, you know, the amount of bullshit that trans women deal with that would get them there, right? That would get them there. Now, I've been a YouTuber for a very long time, and you know, I've seen a lot of trans women come and leave. Most of them don't stay on here forever. A lot of trans women make content and then they disappear because, well, they want to live their lives and not be known. But there's a trans woman on here who I will not mention. But she is a hoot and a half, and I love her to bits. But she makes so many videos where she is just going in on every single guy who expresses anything to her. I mean, every video, and she's not somebody who has like 1 million subscribers or whatever, but to me, she's an icon, right? But most of the videos she uploads are her just going in on every single, dude who ever said hi to her, And like, it's kind of hard to watch. I remember when I was younger and I would talk to men who, had experienced dating trans women, and they would often talk about like these kind of girls. These girls who are so bitter and so hurt by the world that they can't have functional relationships with men. They can't, Their normal is just abuse and shittiness and constant strife and just all that. So like they can't even imagine that any man would possibly even want to have a healthy relationship with them. And thinking about it, there have definitely been times in my life where a decent guy probably approached me, but because I didn't believe he meant what he said, I treated him like shit. I'll admit that. There were probably men who tried their dangdest to connect with me in like a really healthy way, and they probably meant everything that they said, but I just couldn't believe it. And so of course, I probably came off like a really bitter person because I just couldn't buy into the fact that they felt that way. It felt like they were, bullshitting me or some shit, you know what I mean? And I think that's really interesting because I wonder how many people are stuck in that trap. I wonder how many people are stuck in that trap of like, they've dealt with so much shit that a person who's genuine could come to them and approach them and they won't believe it. And I honestly think that trans people are probably more likely to have that reaction because so frequently we deal with people who are not really there for us, people who don't really love or care for us, people who are not really there to be there. I mean, I'll do a whole video about this at some point, but so much of the way that men approach trans women is abusive and shitty. And it's a lot of just saying the right thing because they assume that you're insecure and trying to get you to lower your guard and agree to do something you probably don't want to do because you are insecure and you want to feel validated. And so many men know that they can sort of say a certain thing to a trans woman and get a certain reaction that they will do it. And I know for me, when I was younger, this sort of thing would work. And I would be confused when I would give myself to a man and he would disappear. Because I would sit there and say, well, he said that he loved me and cared about me and wanted to do this and did that with me. And he said that I was the most beautiful woman in the world. But he didn't mean any of it. And here I am just sort of like confused that he lied to me to get what he wanted. And that's so common because so many of the men who approach trans women are not good men. So many of them. Quite a few of them. So it's hard sometimes, I think, to respond positively to the good men because the good men seem like the bad men and you don't want to even get caught giving a chance to a bad man because then you look like a fool. Am I making any sense? Because I think I've experienced this. I think that I've definitely not been welcoming to men who were probably good for me, men who probably meant everything that they said, but I was just so bitter and so hurt that I wasn't able to receive it. I wasn't able to receive it in a really positive way. And I think most of the time men are full of shit. I think 99.9999999% of the time men are full of shit. But what gets me with Alexander, who's the guy that I'm talking about, is that he's clearly not, you know? And Alexander, of probably all of my relationships recently, he's been just easy to connect with. So easy. Connecting with him is not strife, it is not stress, it is not complex, it is not hard or you know, exhausting. I didn't have to really explain myself. He just loves me and cares for me. And it's so unconditional and it's so meaningful that I don't, you know, if he was pulling a con, it would be a really fancy con, right? But I know so many women who just don't believe it's even possible for them to fall in love. And one of the things I thought about when I was thinking about this was how much I thought that this would be something, well, I remember being young and thinking that like, there's no way a man could ever love me until I reached a certain point in my trans life. And in my own self-reflection right now, I'm thinking of like maybe some of the men who early on probably did care for me, probably really did like me, but I couldn't buy into the fact that they felt that way because I wasn't happy or comfortable with myself, you know? And to be fair, you know, a great fracking sage once said, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you gonna love anybody else? So, you know, back in those days when I couldn't have a positive feeling about myself, you know, maybe it was harder for me to receive love. Maybe it was harder for me to receive care. But I think about how many of those men probably did very much exist, who did very much, you know, care for me, that I just didn't allow to register, especially because when I was younger, I was having very transactionary relationships, right? I wasn't even considering that these men could actually care for me. I assumed that they didn't. I assumed that they were trying to use me. So I was like, well, let me get them before they get me, basically, you know? And I just think about that a bit. You know, but at the same time, as I'm saying all of this, you know, I've had a mantra on here lately of don't be open-minded for these men because they don't fucking deserve it, you know? Because truly, there hasn't been a time where I've really given a guy a chance and it's like worked out, you know? It's as we've established in so many various videos that I've done on here, men love to play games. I mean, I'm sure women do too, but I don't date them, so I don't know. But men love to play games. And I think that because of that, you know, you're not necessarily a bad person if you don't want to play their game. You know what I mean? If you don't want to be open, I think that's totally fine. But I just can't help but think about how many people out there are probably so stuck in the trauma of yesterday that they're not open to the love of today. Does that make any sense? I think about that, and I'm really curious if other trans people have been in this position. If you found it really hard to believe that people love you, and if you found it hard for you to be open to the idea that you in your current form, regardless of where you are in transition, could be loved, you know? Because I certainly have. I think my last relationship did teach me that love is possible for me. I definitely will say, and hopefully this doesn't sound too mean, but I will say that the love that I have with Alexander now is more genuine than the love that I had with my ex, because I think what shocked me about Alexander saying that he loved me was because Alexander has met me in a phase of my life where I'm being the most honest. You know, I have no qualms about who I am at the age of 30. You know, I'm not hiding or compartmentalizing myself. I am me. Alexander has seen me at these events. You know, I wouldn't, because at the poly event I used to go to, sometimes I would go to the goth club after. He has seen me in my full goth, and oftentimes if I'm in my full goth, I'm a little sexy. He's seen me in ways that like I would be terrified to show my ex. Do you know what I mean? And I thought in so many ways that if I were open in that way, it would be impossible for a man to love me truly. Not really. And I think that the reason why it shocked me is just because turns out I'm wrong. And it just feels really nice, but it's also one of those weird, confusing feelings for me as somebody who's so used to scrapping and not taking men at their face value. And so I wanted to share that with you guys, to sort of ask you guys if you had similar feelings, because sometimes you guys know I make these videos to know that I'm not alone. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say, and I'm very curious if you guys have had similar experiences. So like usual, I would love to hear your true tea. I would love to read it. Please give it to me in the comment box below. And yeah, tell me if you've ever struggled to believe that someone could love you, especially if you're a trans person. Even if you're not, I would be very curious to hear what you have to say about that. Trauma is funny. Trauma will just make, sometimes, you know, it materializes in these very weird ways. And I've had so many conversations with myself recently that have like pointed out the weird, complicated ways in which trauma materializes for me. And I found those conversations to be really helpful. And I want to thank you guys for helping me have them. So yeah. Anyway, if you made it through this entire video, please put this emoji in the comment section below. The emoji is what all the cool kids are doing. It's something that we really love doing here. And I would love to invite you to our incredibly exclusive party that we're having at my place after school. But, you know, you have to have the emoji if you want to come, and I can't accept you in my house if you don't put the emoji. So it really is up to you if you want to come to like the hottest party of the school year. I would put the emoji, but you know, it's whatever. It's not, maybe it won't even be that fun. I'm sure that you guys will have fun in your basement at home or something. So yeah. Anyway, on that note, I will see you guys next week. Right now you're looking at 2 videos you can watch if you'd like to continue to sip true tea right here on this channel. And in the corner, there are several ways you can send me a tip if that is something that you would like to do. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.